Well, if it does come to armed conflict, how do Ukraine and Russia's military forces compare? The Russian army has 285,000 soldiers, more than 4 times as many soldiers as Ukraine's, with 64,750. And Russia also has twice as many tanks, 2,550 compared to 1,110 for Ukraine. Russia's Air Force has 1,389 combat-capable aircraft to Ukraine's 221. That's 5 times as many. And when it comes to the Navy, Russia has 116 surface vessels to 11 for Ukraine and 64 submarines. Ukraine has 1. And while the number of personnel in Ukraine's Navy, including naval infantry, comes to 16,950, Russia can count on 150,000, of whom 11,000 are based in Crimea. Let's bring in defense analyst Crispian Kuss, who's joining us from London to talk about more of the military angle here. And we are reporting that Ukraine has said, the ambassador to the United Nations, Crispian, has said that Ukraine will ask for help if Russia expands its military activity. So does it sound like they just don't have the capability to defend themselves militarily?
Well, it's not only is it equipment, not only the types of technology and the numbers, but it's also how willing you are to use it, what costs you're willing to accept. What you're willing to put your people through and how much you can trust your military. The government in Ukraine is a very young government, you know, it's been in there literally a matter of days, and their relationship with their own military is probably, you know, uncertain at the moment, and what parts of the army it can trust, which parts, you know, will definitely stand with the new nationalist government.
You talk about trust, so how does this apply to Crimea in particular?
Well, Crimea is the home of the Black Sea Fleet, and for the Russians, when we're looking at the Russian relationship with Ukraine, it is based on 2 things. It's based on a deep cultural understanding of what it is to be Russian and their understanding of Ukraine and part of that Russianness, and it's also based on critical national infrastructure. The Russians will not let the Black Sea Fleet's port, the best port in the Black Sea, go. And that will be something they will not negotiate, or something they will not countenance, and they'll be prepared almost to use any level of force to maintain their hold over it. And the Ukrainian government knows that, so it's really got to ask itself, you know, what measures, what steps are we prepared to sort of defend our own territory and try and, you know, push out the sort of Russian aggressors. But they know for a fact that the West are not going to help them militarily. You know, we've heard some quite strong words from John Kerry in your report just before now, and you know, talks of, you know, visas and economic sanctions. But really, do we really think that the Russians care about that? You know, when you contrast it to the sort of sense of national pride
so what you're saying then is the talk, right? So is what you're saying the talk that you're hearing from the United States, for example, as well as other Western powers, is just that talk, that they won't intervene?
Well, again, what do we mean by intervention? Yes, they won't turn up at some G8 talk in Sochi.
No, I'm talking about military intervention. We're talking about direct military intervention.
It just will not happen. There is not the appetite there. There's not the platform to do it. And NATO or the US or whatever our allies are just not going to spend blood and money sorting out what is essentially a Ukrainian issue. There's a real understanding that while we might not like what the Russians do in their own backyard, it is their backyard, and any pressure we can put, any power we can push on them, it'll be soft power, it'll be economic and social, not militarily.
So how do you see this? All right, I'm afraid I do apologize, but we'll leave it there for now. Crispian, thank you very much for joining us from London.